15-minute race in prospect. The red lights go on and they go out now, and it is a pretty good start from the pole position car, which is that of Richard Webb. Paul Smith tucks into second place in the Mattel. Ryan Yarrow trying to make it into third position in the Spire as they go through the first corner at Redgate. So it's Richard Webb, who's the man that's dominated the championship, winning all 7 races so far this year, that leads the way then from Paul Smith.
Oh, there's a touch in the middle, Ian, behind.
Yeah, Jonathan McGill, that is, isn't it? That's off into the gravel trap there, and he's not going to get out of that, I wouldn't have thought. So he is well and truly beats. The marshals quickly rushing to the scene. I can imagine the snatch vehicle will also head out there and they'll try and get that hooked up before the cars come around again. But I didn't see how that started.
He was side by side with, I think it was Chapman in the blue car down through the Craners. But so Richard Webb, managing director of RLM Engines, the sponsors of the championship, absolutely superb and flying this morning. Under Tim Gray's lap record, set back in 2012 when the cars only had to weigh 460 kilos, and it was an 11:33 the record. He did 11:04, 100.34 miles an hour.
Safety car is out though, unsurprisingly, with that car off into the gravel trap of Donington. Oh, and there's been some contact, I'm afraid, between a couple of cars as they came onto the straight. 33 is one of them, that's Daniel Ashby, and the other rather crumpled looking car is number 5, Ed Collins, with the black cross on the yellow background indicating his rookie status. I'm afraid to say a bit of a coming together there under the safety car. Possibly the drivers, I'm sure they had yellow flags to warn them that the safety car was out, but maybe they carried too much speed through the chicane and made contact. That's a great shame for Ed Collins, the 36-year-old from Cambridgeshire, in his first season of racing.
Ashby's body's tattered as well. The other car was involved in that. But interesting. I was chatting to the drivers at lunchtime. I was staying over in the Spire enclave with Paul Nightingale, and talking about the speeds that these cars were pulling. And I got chatting to Richard Webb and also the guy who was doing all the data, and he was pulling 128 miles an hour 3 times on the lap into Redgate corner, at the foot of the Craner curves before he touched the brakes for the old hairpin, and also at the entrance to the Roberts chicane, which is not named for Kenny Roberts, the motorcycle racer, but for Robert Fernell, who was the manager of the circuit here, or ran the circuit here for so long for Tom Wheatcroft. But no, absolutely fantastic. The engines make 200 horsepower at the flywheels, about 175 at the road wheels on the car. And with the cars now weighing 580 kilos with the driver, say 560 when Tim Gray set the lap record back in 2012. And they're about 7 miles an hour down on the F1 1000s.
Okay.
That only weigh 410 with the driver, so they're 170 kilos lighter with the driver.
Yeah, and there's some drivers doing both. The McGill car's been towed in, so we may get going again this time. You can just see just behind this car, the 21 car, you could see the 2 invitation class cars, the MK Indy RLM Cup 200s. They're just going through shot now. These cars have 1340cc engines, so they're not eligible for the championship. That's 1000cc superbike engines that they have in the championship cars. But there's an expectation that we'll have more and more of these RLM Cup 200 cars out next season to really bolster the numbers in this Sports 1000 grid as well. But the race is going to get back underway then. You can hear the engine notes rising as they come through, the green flag waving, and so it's Richard Webb from Paul Smith and Ryan Yarrow as they come through to start the 3rd lap of the race. Ryan Yarrow, the 2-time champion from the past 2 seasons, he was having a look at the inside of Paul Smith there, but he wasn't able to make it through. The first 4 making a bit of a break here. Paul Rogers, number 43, in the 4th of those, racing a Spire GT3S these days. Of course, back in the day he was a Contour driver.
Yes, that's right. And he flew the flag in the contour for years, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going pretty well in this Spire that he's been racing. He's 5th in the championship coming into this weekend. He's had one podium finish so far this year. Paul Rogers.
Yeah, from Attleborough, Norfolk, just up near Snetterton.
That's right.
And it is Richard Webb, who's really put the county of Rutland on the map with the engine business and his own racing. He's not done very much racing at all. He drove the front engine Spire a few times and a Phoenix briefly before that, 5 or 6 years ago. But this is his first proper go, and he's seriously quick.
And he's got the fastest lap of the race, a 1:12.98 on the first real flying lap of the race. We watch the cars dive through. Paul Smith there just kicking a bit of dust on the inside of the Craners. Then the race leader Richard Webb doing that at the old hairpin. Paul Smith there, the 4-time champion in Formula V, but switched to this championship a few seasons ago now, and he's out there in the Mittel SSRD MC53, the SSRD indicating the development that his father has done on this car since it's been in their hands.
And the reason that there's this very long-standing lap record is that normally these cars race on the Grand Prix circuit.
Yes.
They've not been on the national layout for a very long time. But Paul Smith taking it to Richard Webb, and it really is a mark tussle, and the Spire quicker out of the chicane, but down the straight before it, I think Smith was all over him.
It's good to see that Richard Webb's having a bit of a fight on his hands.
12:35, new fastest lap to pursue Smith.
Yeah, so Paul Smith with the fastest lap, but I say Richard Webb not yet beaten this year. It looked like he might be at Pembrey in one of the races, but didn't quite pan out like that. There's the two RLMs being driven by David Watson and Matthew Booth, the F1000 racer. We'll see him out again shortly in the single-seaters. And it's Booth that's now got himself ahead of those two. Booth was also the champion in Sports Specials in an MK Indy chassis as well back in 2016, a car that's still racing in Sports Specials today in the hands of Stuart Thompson. We saw that out at Snetterton last weekend. 7.5 minutes just under left to go, so about halfway through this race now. It's Richard Webb leading from Paul Smith in second place and Ryan Yarrow in third position as we watch the invitation class cars go by.
Yeah, closely matched, as are these leaders, and that's we just had a quick flick of number 8. That was Dan Clues, wasn't he?
Yeah. I wonder if he'd perhaps just recovered from a drama.
Yes, it looked like he probably had.
Leaders have gone through to complete a fifth lap, by the way, only half a second between the two of them. But Richard Webb did a personal best lap that time, 1:12.45, so pull out a bit of a gap. This is the scrap for 11th and 12th, and it's Ian Hutchinson who's now got himself ahead of Stephen Dean. So that's been a change of position there.
Yeah, Stephen Dean's been around the club for a long time, hasn't he? And here this is this pair coming down to catch the MK Indies.
I note that on your screens on the timing tab you can see number 44 in 6th place, Carl Austin. He's got a 10-second penalty. He was moving when the lights went out, so effectively a jump start penalty for him. But the two leaders still pretty evenly matched, but quite a long way ahead now, getting on for 4 seconds I would say, clear of Ryan Yarrow. Down into the Robert chicane again. It's number 88 leading. That's Richard Webb, number 14 Paul Smith in second place. Webb in the GT3S Spire, who's from Uppingham, as Marcus was saying, in Rutland. And chased by the
12:18 to Paul Smith, and that's reduced it by another couple of tenths. Good for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that record stands at 11:33.
Phil Hutchins and Dan Clues just coming towards Redgate Corner now. Clues there in the number 8 car. He was the F1000 champion a couple of seasons ago after quite a number of years of trying. He might be able to pounce him on Phil Hutchins, who made a mistake at Redgate Corner, ran a little bit wide over the curb on the exit, and that gives Clues a bit of renewed hope of trying to get up inside the top 7, which, although may not know it yet, would give him a top 6 with the penalty for Austin.
Yes, I mean, he had a moment a couple of laps ago, as we saw, and Dan trying to regain this one. He's quick, but his last lap was a 14.5, which was a lot quicker than Hutchins ahead of him.
That was Austin just going through. There's this fight for 7th and 8th, then Hutchins and Clues. Quite a long way clear of Dave Watson now, who's back ahead in the RLM Cup 200 cars. Booth has dropped back several seconds on the last lap or two.
12.20 personal best for Webb. 12.18 is the best lap of the race to pursue Smith.
Yeah, the two leaders had identical lap times that time, 1:12.20, the pair of them. And there they are, right together. Number 88, Richard Webb, and number 14, Paul Smith.
There's no traffic to take refuge in, really, is there, in this race?
Not a lot of it, only 14 cars, 13 cars circulating, because Ed Collins has come to a stop after his incident at the end of the first lap. Daniel Ashby he kept going for a while, but he's out now, so there's only 12 circulating at the minute. Hopefully we'll get some of these cars back out tomorrow, because it's a triple header, so 2 more races.
Smith down the inside, and he's gonna rattle through. He's made it, but he has to climb over the curb on the left-hand side as he comes through, and a change then on this lap, which is 8 laps.
Yeah, so really nicely done by Paul Smith to get ahead of Richard Webb. That's entirely on merit. No misfortune or no errors. It's Smith that's now gone through to take the lead of the race. Colin Chapman, you can see going through there in 5th place, number 63. Quite a lonely race for Colin at the moment, which is unusual. Usually he manages to get stuck into a battle. Then Carl Austin, and then Phil Hutchins, who has lost Dan Clues from behind him somewhere along the line. There is Dan Clues. Is he heading into the pit lane? It rather looks like he is. So here are the leaders with 2 3/4 minutes left to go. So probably 3 laps remaining. And it is number 14 leading, which is Paul Smith now in the Mattel SSRD MC53 from Richard Webb in the Spire GT3.
He looked like he had a little bit of a tail slide as he turned into Coppice that time. Here they come. Yeah, that's Dan Clues into the pits, and he's going back around the back into the paddock.
Yeah, out of the race, I'm afraid. But here's a good run for Richard Webb out of the chicane. He's getting alongside Paul Smith on the way up Wheatcroft Straight. There'll be 2 laps to go now, including the one at the starting.
This is going to be interesting.
They're side by side. Smith's got the line, but can Webb sweep around the outside? No, he can't. He tried so hard. They ran abreast there. Both used plenty of curb on the way out of the corner, and Webb, as a result of that, has had to concede about 6 car lengths to Smith. He'll be regathering himself for another effort, I'm sure.
Yeah, but he's popped in an 11.91, so he's broken into the 11s. So 11.33 is the record.
And the crucial thing there was he was ahead as they went over the line, so he knows that if he gets a good exit out of the chicane, if he can stay with Paul Smith, then a move at the chicane, and he doesn't need to be leading by Redgate, providing he's leading over the line. But he's lost a lot of ground now, Marcus.
He has. He's dropped probably 10 or more, no, a lot more lengths.
He may have a problem.
I think he has got a problem because it's
all of a sudden, won't worry about whether he's going to sort of pass Paul Smith through the chicane or not. He's not going to live with Paul Smith, I don't think. There's only 1 more lap to go then in this 15-minute race for the RLM Racing Sports 1000 Championship. On to the final lap goes Paul Smith, and the gap, which was 500ths in favour of Webb a lap ago, is now nearly 4 seconds in favour of Smith. 1:16.94 that time for Webb. So now he's just got to try and bring it home. He's got 5 seconds in hand over Ryan Yarrow. So hopefully, from Webb's point of view, at least he'll be able to cling on to P3. But he won't want to risk too much more damage with 2 races tomorrow.
No, that's right. So I mean, if there is some kind of engine problem or something like that, at least they've got time to change, do a proper change.
And I suppose the resources in the context of his own position as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's probably something rather simpler than that.
So Paul Smith then is making his way through Coppice for the final time. We're going to count down to 0 now. And so Paul Smith just needs to make his way through the Robert chicane for the final time. Right and left flick they take there, and up to the line to take the checkered flag. And Paul Smith is the first man who is not Richard Webb to win a race this season in the RLM Racing Sports 1000 Championship. Webb does bring his car home in a distant second position in the end, and Ryan Yarrow takes third. Fourth is going to go the way of Paul Rogers. Quite a lonely race for him, as it was for number 63 Colin Chapman in fifth spot. Then sixth place on the road is going to be Carl Austin, but he's going to lose that in the final classification because he's got 10 seconds to be added to his time. So Phil Hutchins there will be the final classified finisher inside the top 6. And then the next car through I think is Dave Watson, who is the first of the RLM Cup 200 cars, the MK Indies. So he comes through in 8th place. It's going to be Ian Hutchinson 9th, and 10th should be Stephen Dean in the Spire GT3 Cup, with I think then Matthew Booth the final finisher, and he must have had some issues as well with his car towards the end of that race.
Yeah, Matthew's much more competitive than that, and seems to have had a problem.
Let's see if we can bring you the results from that RLM Racing Sports 1000 Championship race then. 14 Paul Smith it was that took the victory at the end of 11 laps of racing by 6.85 seconds from number 88 Richard Webb. In third place was number 1 Ryan Yarrow. Fourth was number 43 Paul Rogers. Fifth 63 Colin Chapman. Sixth on the road was Carl Austin, but he'll fall to 7th once a 10-second penalty has been added to his time, so number 21 Phil Hutchins will be 6th. The invitation class won by number 85 David Watson. Ian Hutchinson number 9 and Stephen Dean number 34 rounded out the top 10. Only one of the finisher, that was number 65 Matthew Booth, with Dan Clues, Dal Ashby and Ed Collins, as well as Johnny McGill, all out of the race. Let's go down to the pit lane and hear from Paul Smith with Josh Barrett.
Yeah, thanks Ian. We're down here with Paul Smith, who's just got down. He's been congratulated by his dad, who's a big effort in building this kart. So we let Paul get out of the car. Richard Webb comes over to congratulate the team as well. Lots of respect in the Sports 1000 paddock, which hopefully you can see there. And we'll grab a word with the drivers once they take their helmets off. I'm sure Paul's going to be delighted to be a race winner again. Well done, Paul. Winner. And Scott Mattel come and congratulate him as well. We built the car. Well done, Paul. I'll give you them. We haven't had a winner's garland for a little while. Had a great race to win it.
Yeah, it was an amazing race. I mean, I ain't got a championship to think about, and obviously Richard has, but it was so hard to overtake. The only way was to do a banzai lunge, and yeah, it was really good. And he obviously become really close to Redgate, and I don't know why he dropped off, but yeah, it was mega. It was hammer and tongs the whole race.
And back now where you want to be.
Yeah, it's getting there, slowly. So yeah, it's still more work to do as always. You know what I'm like, but yeah, best place to be.
There's been a lot of effort over the last few years to get to this place.
This year, after having 3 years out with COVID and coming back, I can't believe how hard it's been to get towards the front again. And yeah, it's finally getting there.
Congratulations and good luck tomorrow. So well done to Paul Smith, our race winner. Richard Webb, second place over here, having a chat with Paul Nightingale, team boss. Rich, you don't win this time, but a good second place and good points.
Tell you what, that was absolutely brilliant, and fair play to Paul. This is what we're all here for. Wheel-to-wheel racing like that, close, hard, fair, perfect.
A lot of good respect between you, and congratulate him there after we finish.
Hey, that's what we're all here for. Honestly, absolutely stunning drive from Paul. We got a clutch gone on this, and that's why I couldn't quite drag him on the straight, but hey, do you know what? It's great to see him up there. They've worked hard with that car, and fair play to them.
And you sound like you're very much going to enjoy this battle that hopefully you have the whole weekend now.
Absolutely, that's what we want. We want to be wheel to wheel, but I want to finish there next time.
And Paul said it's quite difficult, he found to overtake, had to do a real lunge to get past you, so I guess overnight that you're going to be thinking about, if you are behind, what kind of moves you're going to have to move. Paul?
Yeah, I think we're both going to be pretty good at driving in the mirrors going forwards from today, so it is really difficult when the pace is that evenly matched. And you know you're up against someone who can really race, not just put in a quick lap, but has got really good racecraft as well. It's difficult.
Well, better luck tomorrow.
Cheers, thank you.
And then in third place was Ryan. Yeah, Ryan, I guess again you're a little bit disappointed perhaps not to be up with these two.
Yeah, no, I mean, I had a decent view of that, so I was watching them and just, at least there was no one kind of biting at me from behind, so I just kind of got to the point where I thought, if I push it any harder, I'm having quite a lot of like balance issues and stuff down craners and what have you, that I can work on, so it's not a big deal, but there's more to come, but like I say, I'm glad to see someone else having a fight at the front anyway.
You say about the balance issue, so you said it's something you thought for tomorrow to perhaps get a bit closer?
Yeah, I'll have a think and see what I can do. I mean, there's a lot I can do, but some of it might not work.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
We'll see.
Thanks a lot for that. We're hoping to see you right up there at the front. So good Sports 1000 race there, third for Ryan Yarrow, second for Richard Webb, and the race winner Paul Smith. We move on next to Mazda Racing. It's Mazda MX-5 by Fly Club Racing. Coming up next here at Donington Park.